Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman in our Northwest Side studio.
And I'm Paris Schutz reporting live from Chicago Police Headquarters at 35th and Michigan on the city's south side.
On the show tonight, chemicals that kill the coronavirus. Could hospitals become targets for terror groups looking to exploit the pandemic? Celebrating Easter and Passover while social distancing. Hear from a blues man who drives a CTA bus on the state of both his jobs. And remembering legendary singer-songwriter John Prine.
But first, as we've been doing for the last several weeks, I'll be co-anchoring from out in the community. I've been around to several communities in the area over the last 2+ weeks. Tonight, I'm at Chicago Police Headquarters at 35th and Michigan on the south side. Earlier this evening, I sat down for a one-on-one with interim Chicago Police Superintendent Charlie Beck. So we'll have that, plus more on how first responders and the police are dealing with coronavirus. But first, Brandis, we go back to you for the latest developments from today.
Paris, thank you. Bernie Sanders is out. The Vermont senator is ending his bid for the presidency, clearing the way for former Vice President Joe Biden to become the Democratic Party's nominee. Sanders had been facing questions about his campaign's viability after a series of primary election losses. He says he'll stay on the ballot in remaining primaries to collect delegates with the hope of influencing the Democratic Party's platform. 82 more deaths and 1,500 new cases. That was the word from the state's health director earlier today. That brings Illinois' COVID-19 total to 462 deaths and more than 15,000 cases. Today marks Illinois' highest daily number thus far, but also brings with it some hope.
Although the numbers are still increasing, I will tell you that the rate at which they're increasing is less, and that is a good sign. We're not seeing the exponential growth that we were seeing before. But even as there may be some glimmers of hope, I say that physical distancing must continue to be the way that we reduce the spread of this virus.
Governor J.B. Pritzker also outlined steps the state is taking to get to 10,000 tests a day, a benchmark he'd hoped to hit that Illinois has fallen short of. He also announced the first round of grants from the state's COVID response fund, totaling $5.5 million to 30 nonprofits. Two Chicago area businesses, Ulta and Groupon, say they're furloughing thousands of workers as the global pandemic tightens its grip on the economy. Ulta Beauty, based in Bolingbrook, says the temporary furlough of a reported 44,000 workers will take effect on April 19th. And Cranes is reporting that Groupon is furloughing a significant portion of its sales and operating teams in North America, effective immediately. The company declined, however, to comment on how many employees will be affected. Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle is in self-isolation for a couple of days after learning that someone on her security detail has tested positive. In a release, Preckwinkle says she has no symptoms, but is being careful. She'll come out of isolation at the end of the day Friday, which will be the 14th day since the employee was last in her office building or in one of the security detail's vehicles. Though isolating, Preckwinkle is still able to join us on the show tomorrow night via video conference. And if you're looking to adopt a pet to keep you company during the quarantine, it might take a bit longer. Chicago Animal Care and Control says all of its adoptable pets have new homes, and as of today, none are available for adoption or fostering. The shelter says it has just 51 dogs, 6 cats, and 2 roosters at the shelter who are on hold for various reasons. Typically, this time of year, the shelter has at least 250 dogs and more than 100 cats. And now we turn back to Paris Schutz, who's outside Chicago Police Headquarters in the city's Bronzeville neighborhood. He's been reporting today on the impact of COVID-19 on Chicago police officers and first responders. But first, he joins us with a one-on-one conversation with outgoing CPD Interim Superintendent Charlie Beck.
Yeah, Brandis, Beck came on the job in December on an interim basis to replace Eddie Johnson. He will leave the job as early as next week if City Council can get together and confirm his successor, David Brown. So we did sit down with Charlie Beck earlier this afternoon. We talked about all manner of things related to violence and the CPD consent decree, but I began by asking him what kinds of precautions he was taking to protect the officers from coronavirus.
Well, there are a lot of things have been done. We put over 18,000 PPE kits into the districts. We just delivered an additional 42,000 masks over the weekend. We have hundreds of thousands of pairs of gloves, all these in the districts. We have enforcing social distancing by changing the way we do roll call, changing the way that we do ComStat, changing the way that we do all of our meeting formats. We have put thermometers, infrared thermometers in all the districts so that we can self-check to make sure that people aren't coming to work sick, and then we send them home if they are. We've done informational, not only directives, but videos with Dr. Arwadi from CDPH, and to make sure that people understand what the best practices are, and constant messaging, constant looking for what we can do to make our employees as safe as they can be, recognizing that they are the small portion of Chicago that can't stay at home, that they have to go to work. And not only do they have to go to work, but they have to interact with people who may be on the worst day of their lives and may be infected themselves. So, it's a tough job. This organization has made it tough people. I know they will rise to the challenge, and I think that in the end, Chicago will look at the performance of its police department during this pandemic and recognize what a great police department they have.
The crime news from yesterday, 21 shot, 7 killed. It was also the nicest weather day of the year. Is this what Chicagoans should anticipate as the weather gets nicer, more violent days like that?
Well, I think we'll see more violent days, hopefully none like yesterday. I mean, yesterday was certainly an anomaly, and I hope that we don't see that again. That was a very, very tough day. We made good progress on most of them. We have suspects in custody on 2 of the murders and some strong leads on 2 others, including names. So we'll make progress on those, but I think that it brings to light the fact that there's not only the pandemic in Chicago that causes death. We have far too much gun violence.
And from your perspective, having spent so much time leading the LA Police Department, as their murder rate dropped precipitously, do you have any new context or perspective on why Chicago's murder rate stays stubbornly higher than LA or New York?
Well, I think a number of things. I think we need to work on public trust. I think that solving these crimes, especially gang-related crimes, takes a willing population that's willing to talk to its police. So I think that's really important, something to work on. I think our enforcement strategies need to be stronger. But I also think that the culture of that small percentage of primarily young men that are gang involved or gang associated has to change. They are far too violent, and that has to be a shift also. And so I think some of the positive things that are in place that will affect that. The mayor's office has put considerable more money into street outreach, which I found to be very effective in LA. And that is just coming online at the end of this month. So I would expect to see an improvement as that becomes more ingrained in the response to gun violence and prevention of gun violence. So there's a number of positive things that are in play.
You kind of underwent a big reorganization of the leadership structure at CPD. Can you just tell the average Chicago resident how that impacts them, the changes that you put in place?
Well, in the past, the Chicago Police Department was very siloed, and what I wanted to do was make it more responsive to the communities. So every community was within a district here. But your district in the past didn't have control over narcotics assets, only had a partial amount of the gang assets, had very few detectives working within it that were assigned to the district, and now we're going to change that. Your district commander will be able to provide every kind of police service to attack crime in those neighborhoods, and that makes the police department much more responsive to the public. When you're siloed by function, when the district commander has to ask for narcotics assets rather than put his own in there, when the district commander doesn't have total access to gang reduction assets, when they have to go ask what's happening with a case from another command, all those things are detrimental to policing, to effective policing. And so, we're changing that, and we're going to, push those resources down to those district commanders who we hold so accountable for this. And accountability without ability is a false hope. You know, you just can't hold people accountable if they have no ability to affect what you're holding accountable for. So, you know, this changes that, and this will not only impact this generation of the police department, but will affect it for generations to come.
And get back to the bigger picture for a second. What are the concrete pieces of advice that you would give your successor, Superintendent Brown? Well,
you know, obviously, Superintendent Brown and I have already talked considerably, and we'll talk continuously, you know, through his tenure here. I'm available to him 24/7, 365 for the rest of his time here. I think that my recommendation to him are these. One, this is a great police department. It has great folks in it. They are crying for strong leadership. They are looking for a leader. And, you know, I think you can be that leader. And so you have to interact with them. You have to show them that you care about them. Show them that you are a demanding leader, but a caring leader, you know. And these are all his traits anyway. I'm not telling him something that he doesn't already do. But what I'm telling him is that the organization needs that. They need somebody that will champion them, but hold them responsible. They need somebody, you know, there's always a dichotomy in police leadership. You know, you demand the impossible from your people. And you have to know that. You have to know that what we are requiring them to do is of great difficulty.
A little bit there of our talk with outgoing interim police superintendent Charlie Beck, and you can get the full interview. We hit on a lot of subjects on our website, WTTW.com/news. And Brandis, we'll be back here in just a little bit with more on the coronavirus's impact on police and first responders. But now we throw it back to you.
An important time for the police department, Paris. Thank you. And now to Carol Marine and how some religious leaders are dealing with social distancing during this spring holiday season. Carol.
Brandis, the main question on Passover that's asked and answered during the Seder dinner service is, how is this night different than all other nights? Well, in the age of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's very different for those celebrating Passover starting tonight at sundown, and for Christians who are observing Holy Week with Good Friday coming up and then Easter on Sunday. Here to talk about the holidays and how they are ministering during this very strange time, Rabbi Rachel Weiss, the senior rabbi at the Jewish Reconstructionist Congregation in Evanston, and Reverend Shannon Kirshner, pastor of Fourth Presbyterian Church in Chicago, which is the second largest Presbyterian church in the country. Welcome, both of you. Rabbi, let me start with you. Jews have been celebrating Passover since 1300 BC, but have never done so on Zoom. How are you going to do it this time?
You know, we're not celebrating Passover in the same way that they did in 1300 BCE, and we're not even celebrating it the same way that they did when they reinvented it 1,000 years later. So we are taking the essence of the symbols, the bitterness and the sweetness, and the tears and the salt water and the fresh signs of spring, and we are doing the best we can. And tonight, many of us will gather over Zoom, we'll connect virtually, but the most important thing is we'll connect, we'll remember the holiday, and we will say, here we are next year in freedom.
Reverend, for you and your congregation on these important days, how will you do it?
Well, we will have our normal amount of services. At least we'll have a Holy Thursday service tomorrow evening, and Good Friday at noon, and Easter Vigil on Saturday, and then Easter on Sunday. But most of them are live streamed from my living room. We are keeping it pretty simple. I get to work with 7 other ministerial colleagues, and they're all recording different pieces of the service that I will then help to curate as we move through that time. And then we're going to all have communion virtually on Thursday evening. And so we believe that Jesus is the one who invites us to the table. And so we will lend Jesus all of our tables, and we will still celebrate that unity when we start joining together tomorrow evening.
Both of those answers are truly lovely. There are people, and you know this better than I, that feel deep isolation right now, that there's confusion, there's worry, and so ministering to them brings in all of those dimensions, maybe multiplied, Rabbi. How are they dealing? How's your congregation dealing? And how are you dealing with that?
So our congregation is actually feeling more connected than ever, which is a remarkable thing. We held a Shiva Minyan, a gathering for someone so that they could say Kaddish, the memorial prayer for their mother that died. And 63 households were on a Zoom call together for that service from 4 different time zones and lots of different folks connected together. We are recognizing now that connection is so important. And we're also recognizing that loneliness and isolation is actually not something new. We have always had people who are isolated and lonely, and many more of us now are feeling that empathy and feeling that connection for ourselves. And so the hope is that we are calling, we are Zooming, we're emailing, we're recording messages every morning on Facebook to share with folks so that there is a touch point. And what we're seeing is more and more of our congregants are reaching out to each other. And that has provided such a foundation for support and a wellspring of creativity. We have members tonight that will be hosting their own Seders on Zoom and inviting other congregants who don't have a Seder to attend virtually and to Zoom into their Seder. So we're really finding this time of connection. And I think the challenge will be not how do we continue to connect now, but how do we make sure going forward, once we've moved through the height of this pandemic, that we continue to learn from this and continue to help those who are feeling lonely and isolated.
Reverend, for your flock, I mean, there are baptisms, weddings, funerals that continue to need to be addressed, and Easter. How is that going in your church?
We're pushing pause on quite a few of those big lifetime, in particular the celebratory moments. So baptisms and a lot of our weddings, we have pushed pause on those. Some of the memorial services that we had scheduled prior to the stay-at-home order are also right now on pause as we get further in this and as we experience more deaths as a community of faith. We're having to figure out how we will attend to them and how we will minister to those families. But like the rabbi said, a lot of it is really reaching out and being intentional about making those connections, even if we can't physically be there. We're trying to call all of our members 70 years old and over.
And you have a lot of them.
We have around over 700 of them.
Wow.
So yeah, so with the clergy and our deacons and some volunteer folks from our congregation are making those phone calls, and it makes a huge difference.
One last question, and it has to do with food. So I'm hearing, and food is such a big part of Easter and Passover. Rabbi, I'm hearing there's a shortage of matzah. Is that the case? And what do we do?
You know, matzah was the food of the creative food of invention. They didn't have enough time for their bread flour to rise, so they put flour and water together and off they went because freedom was more important. And so we may not have the matzah. We may not have all of those nostalgic foods that come from our Seders and our Passovers of past, but what we do have is all of the ways that we can tell the story and we can remember it. Who knows? We're going to create new symbols this year, and we'll do the best we can.
And Reverend, last for you, how are we doing our lamb and our ham and our Easter dinner in this new time?
I'm not sure how all my church members are doing it because I'm not even sure how my own household is going to do it. But there is something interesting to embrace about the oddness and the mystery of this that I think might be a little bit more similar to the original Easter in its starkness and its strangeness than all the pageantry and celebration that we normally have.
Well, there's some beauty in what we are learning as we adapt and as we connect. Rabbi Rachel Weiss and Reverend Shannon Kirshner, thank you both very much, and good Passover, happy Easter. I hope your families are well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
We will be back with more right after this, but first, a look at the weather.
Everyone knows the basics. Clean your hands, wipe down surfaces. But for more on how to protect yourself from the coronavirus, our Amanda Venicky spoke with a local chemical supplier. Amanda Venicky joins us now with that story. Amanda.
Brandis, Sealer Industries has been around for 40-something years. The Joliet-based company blends and distributes a variety of chemicals, including one called peracetic acid.
This is peracetic acid. We are one of the largest manufacturers of peracetic acid in North America.
It is one of the chemicals in products designated by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency for killing the coronavirus. Sealer's Vice President of Regulatory Affairs, Vincent Castellino, says for reasons other than COVID, the company had already been scaling up. It was fortuitous timing.
Not only is it used in food facilities, hospitals, schools, things where we need to keep things very clean, but it's also going into wastewater, and that's where we have seen a lot of growth. So we have already been anticipating growth of this product. So we just are very well positioned at this point to help out in the community by being able to provide more product during this trying time.
Castellino gave me a socially distanced cell phone tour of the storage facility. Sealer ships products to California, out east, and now Castellino says more Chicago area municipalities have been in touch trying to get product. Demand, he says, is up by 20%.
This is a peroxy and quaternary ammonium-based product used to fog spray solution to kill COVID-19. So I would say out of the 4 products that there is an increased demand for, altogether we're at a 20% increase. This particular product right here, because it is on the EPA's list, is at an increase of about 50%.
It varies with each chemical, but this roughly is how parasitic acid and similarly composed chemicals kill the coronavirus on surfaces.
Now, how that works is it breaks down the structure of the COVID virus, killing it and rendering it, dead at that point in time.
Actually breaks down the lipid walls, Castellino says. Now, despite the obvious reason for higher demand these days, he says the company is taking care to not hike prices.
The only time the price has gone up from our end is if the price on the raw materials has gone up from our supplier. It is our belief that we will not be price gouging during this time. It is simply poor business and bad ethics.
Sealer doesn't sell straight to consumers like you and me. The company distributes its products, like these drums of hydrogen peroxide, to companies that package and sell them. Castellino nonetheless does have advice for shoppers wondering what they can do to prevent the spread of coronavirus and other germs in their homes. When you go to the store, he says, pay attention to how a product is labeled. There is a difference between cleaners and disinfectants.
One of the things that we need to keep in mind is when something is being claimed as a cleaner, that's all it's technically lawfully can be used for. It's cleaning. It's not going to sanitize. That's not going to kill COVID. It may, but you can't assume that it will. You need to look for a product that is EPA registered with kill claims for antimicrobials, and in this case, look for one that specifically has COVID on the label.
The EPA website on Thursday came out with a list of products it has classified as effective COVID killers. And to be clear, these are meant to be used on surfaces, not on people, so don't wash your hands with them. Castellino advises shoppers to make sure that what they're using, if the goal is to kill COVID, is on that list. Of course, he says disinfecting surfaces is not the only way to stop the spread of this virus.
We are one means to stopping this and reducing the impact that this has on the nation. But the other thing obviously is people doing their individual part, and that's quarantining when you can. Obviously us at Sealer are making a sacrifice here by coming in every day, working the best we can, because we are at the top end of the essential employee list because of what we make and what we do here.
Castellino says that the company has taken extra precautions for its workers. There are more hand sanitizing stations, that is, inside the factory and distribution center. Something important to mention, with so many people unfortunately out of work now, Sealer is hiring, looking for forklift drivers, warehouse workers, chemical handlers, and blenders. Jobs that Castellino says, depending on experience, can pay between $17 and $30 an hour. And by the way, we do have a link on the WTTW News Chicago Tonight website of those EPA-approved COVID disinfectants. Brandis, back to you.
Amanda, thank you. Still to come on Chicago Tonight, a security specialist says hospitals and supermarkets are soft targets for right-wing terror groups looking to exploit the COVID-19 pandemic. Find out what type of relief the federal government is offering small businesses. Reconnecting with a Chicago bluesman who during the day drives a CTA bus. And remembering singer-songwriter John Prine, who died yesterday from the coronavirus. But first, like he has been doing for the past several weeks, Paris Schutz is co-anchoring from the field. Tonight, he joins us in the Bronzeville neighborhood outside police headquarters once again, where earlier he interviewed outgoing interim police superintendent Charlie Beck. Today, Paris is focusing on the impact of COVID-19 on Chicago's first responders. Paris.
Yeah, Brandis, and I should mention we're under the portico here at 35th and Michigan Public Safety Headquarters to escape some of the rain. And first responders, police officers, they have not been able to escape coronavirus concerns. They, of course, still have to go to work. They're considered essential workers that need to be out on the job. And in many ways, their job has become more complicated because of the pandemic. And they've been hit hard. Last night, the Chicago Fire Department reported its first COVID-19 related death, that of 49-year-old Mario Araujo, who had served on the force since 2003. This, of course, follows the death of CPD officer Marco DeFranco, who died last week because of symptoms related to COVID-19. His death is considered in the line of duty, so his family, his surviving family, gets full death benefits. And in all, CPD has reported 134 cases, positive cases, confirmed positive cases of COVID-19. They say there's another 46 CPD members that express symptoms, although they haven't had the test to be confirmed quite yet. So the problem is widespread in the police department. And even for those first responders that don't feel symptoms yet, there are about 274 rooms at the Essex Hotel on Michigan Avenue. This is part of a deal worked out by the city. So police officers can stay there for free if they fear they might have been exposed to somebody and they don't want to put any of their family back home at risk. The police department has also had to deal with staffing issues. One day last week, 800 officers called in sick, or about 6% of the workforce. This as the recent warmer weather has started to cause an uptick in shootings. Yesterday, as we talked about with Superintendent Beck, we saw 21 people shot, 7 fatally. Now, as for the fire department, Commissioner Richard Ford says he's confident in his staffing levels and that they could hold up. Staffing among fire department officials and paramedics says they're okay for now. He also says he's not concerned about the availability of ambulances and other emergency response vehicles who have to transport an increasing amount of COVID-19 patients to the hospital.
Our manpower is fine right now. We're adjusting to what needs to be done in order to keep the city protected, of course. We, in fact, have 4 ambulances that completely do nothing but COVID runs, and that, in fact, has covered 80% of the runs that we've had. Right now, we're doing really well. We're looking and working with the union and, of course, the mayor in order to make sure we're serving the city.
And the commissioner says they are exploring having paramedics go to people's homes on a call and then conference in with a doctor via telemedicine, as opposed to taking everyone to the hospital, just to sort of cut down on some of that. I did speak with one paramedic over the phone today who did say he was concerned about ambulance shortages as more cases came, and if there are more gunshot victims in the warmer days to come. Now, in just a moment, we'll be back here with the president of the FOP, Kevin Graham, on how he feels the police department is doing protecting police officers from coronavirus. And now, Brandis, we go back to you.
Sounds like interesting adjustments could be on the way. Paris, thank you. Up next, what one local terrorism specialist has to say about the possibility that terror groups are looking to exploit the COVID-19 pandemic. Right-wing terrorist groups are looking to exploit the chaos of the COVID-19 pandemic to advance their racist agenda. That's the view of an international terrorism specialist who says law enforcement authorities need to urgently track and combat right-wing groups looking to weaponize the crisis. Joining us now to tell us more is Robert Pape, a political scientist and international security specialist at the University of Chicago, where he's also the director of the Chicago Project on Security and Terrorism, which tracks terrorist threats around the world. Professor Pape, welcome back.
Yep, glad to be here.
So how are terrorists responding to the COVID-19 pandemic? Do they see this as a threat or an opportunity?
Well, Islamic terrorists and right-wing terrorists are responding in very different ways. Islamic groups like ISIS have been prolific in reacting to the COVID-19 crisis on social media, but not through calls to attack in the West or in the United States. Instead, their approach has been to label and glorify the COVID-19 virus as an act of God that is essentially visiting the angel of death on the West. Now, this approach, however, is likely to backfire in the coming months as many Muslims succumb in the Middle East, in Africa, and parts of Asia. So this approach by Islamic groups may in fact not work to serve the purposes of those Islamic groups. Right-wing terrorist groups, on the other hand, are another matter. They are calling for weaponizing COVID-19, and we have already seen a plot to do so. On March 24th, a Missouri man died in a confrontation with the FBI, and he was in the process of the final stages of a plot to blow up a hospital caring for COVID-19 patients. He did this, and we know from his posts on social media, because he believed that the virus was a government conspiracy orchestrated by Jews. Now, alas, the vulnerability of hospitals and even major grocery stores is all too real. They are now the only places of mass gathering, and people come to them on a regular and predictable basis.
How should the government and law enforcement, how should they be responding to this kind of threat? For example, you just mentioned Timothy Wilson, the man in Missouri.
There's really several steps that we need to take. First, our political leaders, and I mean our president, I mean Governor Pritzker, I mean Mayor Lightfoot, should stress that law enforcement is not collapsing, but strong and able to deal with whatever comes. This would directly undermine much of the right-wing messaging that stresses that political order is breaking down. Second, we need to strengthen tracking of right-wing groups for law enforcement. At CPOST, we already extensively track Islamic groups. We urgently need to extend this mission to right-wing groups as well. Many hospitals have protection. They also have barriers, but supermarkets are a different story. So third, we need more assessment of the security of our new soft targets. We've learned that only with meaningful scientific data and insights can we fight a virus. The same applies to terrorism. Only with meaningful scientific data and insights can we fight extremists of all kinds.
And Professor Pape, you mentioned extremists of all kinds. We've talked about, Muslim terrorists or extremists. You've also talked about, the right wing that are here in this country. Is this an opportunity for drug cartels as well to take advantage of the U.S. government, law enforcement being distracted and otherwise focused?
There's undoubtedly going to be opportunities for bad actors, black marketeers, for instance. And we're probably only in the beginning stages of seeing how those are going to unfold. There are advantages in some of the activities that we want to curtail, such as some of the bad actors need to congregate, and they need to congregate in some serious numbers. And now that we're reducing congregations of groups of 10 or less, the numbers of people who congregate simply stand out. So we're going to see that not everything is going to work as a disadvantage as we go forward. The virus will have effects in suppressing some types of crime and some types of violence, even if it's encouraging some bad actors to take advantage of it.
And last month, the Trump administration ousted the acting director of the National Counterterrorism Center. What do you make of that move?
I think this is an unfortunate time to weaken our National Counterterrorism Center. I think it's extremely important that we are strengthening the National Counterterrorism Center. This, after all, is the very vehicle that we built after 9/11 for better tracking of terrorist threats and intelligence sharing across not just our international intelligence agencies, but our international and domestic agencies such as the FBI. At this moment in time with the COVID virus, we have real issues that we want to track carefully, international groups as well as domestic groups. And this is what the National Counterterrorism does best. And unfortunately, this is an unfortunate period of time to be going through any kind of change and much less any kind of downsizing of the National Counterterrorism Center.
Is it possible that the country is a bit more vulnerable to a terrorist attack just because law enforcement and the government's attention, it's all directed towards the COVID-19 effort right now?
I think that it's natural that the public worries about complacency. It's natural that the public worries that we are distracted. But from my interactions with our great law enforcement, that's not what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is really healthy and vigorous engagement. And what I'm seeing is that, in fact, we are not really short of the manpower in this area. I think, however, we need to recognize that analyzing and tracking the information I'm talking about and then seeing the likely best next steps, these are things that we need to move expeditiously on and move forward, and should not simply take for granted that somebody somewhere is taking care of the problem.
Okay, Professor Robert Pape, University of Chicago, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
The future for many small businesses across the Chicago area and across the country is unclear. To create some security, the federal government has stepped in with $349 billion in loans for small businesses. But the programs have had a bumpy start. Many businesses are nervous the funds might be exhausted before their loans even get approved, and the timeline for when the money will actually get into their hands is also unclear. Joining us with more about these loans and the state of Illinois businesses are Rob Carr, President and CEO of the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, and Robert Steiner, District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration's Illinois District Office. Now, first, let's go over what some of the gentlemen, first of all, thank you for joining us, but let's go over what some of these programs are that we're talking about. There's the Paycheck Protection Program. It offers loan forgiveness for employers. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance provides up to $10,000 of an advance for businesses. And the Small Business Loan Subsidy Program pays interest for some loans. So first, Robert Steiner, if we can, let's start with you. How will these programs help small businesses?
Sure. So the Paycheck Protection Program is really there to help small businesses and their employees by offering payroll support for business owners who really need it right now. The way the program works is it is a loan that the business would do through a lender, not through the SBA directly. But what it does is it offers the employer the opportunity to receive forgiveness for the amount of that loan as long as they're using it for the purposes of keeping their employees on payroll and keeping their headcount up. So it's a real benefit, not just to the employer, but it also can help that business, or to the business, but also to their employees. They stay on staff and they're receiving paychecks and benefits as well. So that's one key program. The advance, again, is the idea of the economic injury advance is to get money in the hands of small businesses as quickly as possible. And we are working very hard to get that money to small businesses really, really fast, making sure that that happens. And then from a loan subsidy standpoint, as for businesses that have an SBA loan already, helping them get some breathing room by basically paying the federal government, paying their principal and interest, so that they have some breathing room for the next 6 months as hopefully the economy comes back.
And Rob Carr, what have you heard? What's the reaction from small businesses about accessing these loans?
It's been a little difficult and spotty at the moment. And I want to be fair. I mean, to the SBA, this is an unprecedented level of injection, of programs that they're trying to implement at extraordinarily short notice. And so I think we need to be fair there. But it has also been difficult for banks that have not been able to access the portal as quickly. To credit to the SBA, they opened up a second portal for that as well. But our smaller members are reporting some difficulty getting connected at the moment.
Robert Steiner, is it clear when businesses will actually have these loans in their hands?
Yeah, so my understanding right now is that banks have been processing loans, getting them through a headquarters process with SBA to get them approved. Once approved, I know that there may be a little bit of a backlog. I mean, if you think about the volume that we're taking, I used the example the other day, $349 billion is like 15 years of normal SBA lending. So if that gives you like context for what we're trying to push out through systems that were designed for 1 year, $30 billion, it's pretty massive. But what we're seeing is that once the bank gets that approval, then they should be in a position to fund those loans within 5 business days or so.
Rob Carr, what are some of the concerns that your members are having with taking on new debt, with taking on these loans?
Well, I think there's always concerns when you take on new debt, particularly when you're not operating. And we have to keep in mind that unlike any other sector, really the retail sector is carrying a tremendous brunt of all of these shutdown orders and stay-at-home orders across the nation. Clearly, travel's heavily impacted, and hotel, but retail in particular. And when you're not operating, it's nerve-wracking to take on additional debt. However, I think that's what makes the Paycheck Protection Program particularly attractive at this point in time, is it does provide some opportunity to open. But again, questions remain exactly when stay-at-home orders are lifted. How will they be lifted? Will we all just suddenly go back, or will they be lifted in increments? If they're lifted in increments, what's that going to do to businesses? So I sincerely believe that while this is a great start, that this program and others are going to have to be revisited as time goes on.
Are these loans, I mean, could it be enough to meet the needs of all the small business owners that need this support?
I think, as we've already seen, Congress is already talking about injecting some additional capital into particularly the Paycheck Protection Program. I think that's clearly needed. There's extraordinary interest in it. So we'll need to see more support in that area. Again, it's all going to come down to a timing issue. When these stay-at-home orders are lifted, how are they lifted? How quickly can people get back to living their normal lives? How quickly can businesses continue or begin again to make the sales that they haven't been making to get the liquidity they need to not only operate, but pay off the loans that they are now accruing?
Robert Steiner, what more can be done to alleviate some of the problems that are happening with distributing these funds?
Sure. Well, I think all these things are happening. So the SBA has been very focused on our systems and making sure that lenders have access to those systems. And a credit to the lending partners that are participating in the program. They are working very hard to support the business owners and including those sole practitioner or sole proprietors and others to get through the system. They've had to stand up additional resources from the standpoint of staffing and of technology to support this effort. And again, this program just launched on Friday, April 3rd. So to be where we are right now and looking at, taking applications and actually being in a position to hopefully see disbursements very shortly here is a huge step forward. And I expect us to continue to move at light speed to get the money in the hands of those business owners that need it and make sure that those initial disbursements are happening very quickly.
Okay. More to come, I'm sure. My thanks to Rob Carr and Robert Steiner. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we check back in with Paris Schutz, who's co-anchoring from Bronzeville outside of Chicago Police Headquarters. Paris.
Hey, Brandis. So I'm joined now by the president of FOP Lodge 7, the police union here in Chicago, Kevin Graham. Kevin, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kevin, how has the police department done in terms of protecting officers from being exposed to coronavirus as they go out and do their jobs?
Well, I'll get to that. We've made some great progress in the last 2 weeks. Many of the officers are very upset. First of all, there's a danger out there that they can't see. They're being exposed to a virus, not necessarily having all the proper equipment. Given that 2 weeks ago, a lot of the equipment wasn't out to the districts and wasn't getting to the members, it is getting better. I'm still handling daily calls that say, look, we don't have the N95 masks, we don't have masks. And a lot of that is a communications problem. And we are trying to resolve those every day. We're also looking at people who haven't gotten the proper equipment since day one, and some of that we purchased. We are also looking at the FOP, doing some testing and hooking up with a medical hospital and center to try and start doing testing
So you're
for
saying
some
there's
of
some
our members.
officers that want to get tested that haven't been able to get tested yet?
Yes.
And you were telling me earlier that you actually had to go buy some hand sanitizer in bulk because there was a shortage in the department.
We bought a total. We bought 300 gallons of hand sanitizer for our members and for members of FOP Lodge 41, which is the state troopers. And so they asked us if they could get in on it with us, and I said absolutely. And so we've been trying to work together to make sure that we have hand sanitizer. And having said that, the city has now managed to purchase new hand sanitizer. Just today, the city has shown that they have machines that are going to sanitize workstations and cars. So we are making progress, but we're not to the point where our members are satisfied, and where I'm satisfied.
Give us a sense of what officers face when they're going about their daily rounds or doing their job, or say they have to chase someone down, or there's some extreme incident that they're dealing with, and now they have to worry about contracting this virus. How does it change policing?
Well, absolutely, we want to keep people safe. We want to keep our officers safe, and when you are trying to arrest somebody, you've got to put your hands on them. You've got to handcuff people. When we are trying to do what we call social distancing, you really can't do that if you're doing law enforcement work and you're arresting someone. So there, and I can't speak highly enough about the police officers, the men and women of the Chicago Police Department, who go out every single day. And although they cannot see the danger, they know the danger is there, and yet they show up for work and do it day in and day out. That's the mark of a hero, and that's what these men and women do.
There's been some talk about wanting to shut down police stations, to the public going in the lobby. Would you like to see the city do that?
I certainly would. I like to see the stations limited to only emergencies coming in there. We just had a desk officer in one of the districts that I used to work in, and I used to work with her. She just tested positive. This is a disease that will strike anyone, and we have to limit the amount of contact that our officers have with the public, even when we are doing law enforcement work. There are times that we can't stop that having the contact, but it's certainly, we can limit it.
All right, Kevin Graham, thanks so much for joining us Saturday night.
you.
Be safe. Thanks. And Brandis, we'll wrap things up in just a bit, and now we go back to you.
Paris, a lot of questions about keeping those officers safe as well. Thank you. Bus drivers have a tough job these days too, and musicians are pretty much out of work. We spoke with one CTA driver who is also a songwriter with a new record. He drives people all over town, but right now he can't play for the people. Chicago Tonight arts producer Mark Vitale has his story.
My name is Toronzo Cannon, and I'm a bus operator for CTA, Chicago Transit Authority, and I'm a blues man.
My doctor said I'm going down slow. What's ailing me, he don't know.
A few years back, Chicago Tonight met Toronzo Cannon at the CTA's West Side Garage. It was 6 a.m. and he was getting ready for his 10-hour shift. Last week, we asked him what his very public job is like during a pandemic.
I guess a heightened sense of security. Everyone is kind of on edge now. We're getting information like rolled in every week, so no one really knows what to do. Do we wear a mask? We get gloves, we get hand sanitizer, but our mask optional and things like that. So everyone's kind of on edge. Bus capacity, how many people can be on our bus? What should we do about that? Things like that. Things are kind of tight now as information rolls in.
Put a dollar in my hand.
My new CD from Alligator Records is called The Preacher, The Politician, or The Pimp. And it's just things that I see in my daily work, driving a bus. That's like my office for 10 hours a day, It gets pretty lonely up there in the front, too.
Most prices I can't afford. It made an atheist call on the Lord. Insurance, y'all,
Right now, he's feeling the loss of his other line of work.
I always looked forward for something to do other than drive the bus and be cursed out or given a finger by passing cars or whatever, you know. That was my getaway. And music is, you know, me writing, me playing in front of large audiences. You know, from my vantage point of seeing the audiences and people having fun, it's just something that I didn't realize that I would miss, but I do. And me as I guess a people person, you know, again, bus driver and musician and songwriter, it's hard just to wave all the time or give that virtual high five or whatever they're saying now, you know, it's hard. I'm sure music will just, you know, carry us on and heal us and get us to that other side, you know. So then we can look back on this whole thing and say, wow, that was a crazy ride, you know.
For Chicago Tonight, this is Mark Vitale.
And by the way, that interview was shot at Blues on Halstead, which remains closed to the public. Toronzo Cannon's new record on Chicago's Alligator Records is called The Preacher, the Politician, or the Pimp. You can see a lot more of his performance on our website. Now to the story of another local musician, legendary singer-songwriter John Prine, who grew up in suburban Maywood. He died Tuesday of the novel coronavirus. He was 73. He took classes at the Old Town School of Folk Music on the North Side and went on to become a favorite of artists like Johnny Cash, Bruce Springsteen, and Bob Dylan. Dylan said in a 2009 interview that, quote, Prine's stuff is pure Proustian existentialism. Wow. Midwestern mind trips to the nth degree, and he writes beautiful songs. That's Dylan for you. Back in 2010, Paris spoke with Prine on Chicago Tonight. Here's Prine talking about growing up in Maywood.
And it was a great place to grow up. I really enjoyed my childhood, and I enjoy looking back on it, you know.
And you talk about it was one of the first suburbs that was fully integrated back then. I mean, how did growing up in Maywood shape you as a writer?
I didn't really notice. I don't know about it as a writer, but I imagine everything touched me one way or the other when I got around to writing. But when I got away from home and into the Army, and I was all of a sudden thrown in a situation where you were with a lot of fellas, very diverse bunch, and I realized that the other guys had never been with anybody except folks exactly like, you know, where they were from, you know, like the middle of Texas or something like that. And it was great because Maywood, I was used to growing up with kids from that were Mexican and a lot of blacks, and it was the way that we were raised, you know.
Right.
And it was a great place to come from.
You were a mailman in Maywood for a while, and you took lessons at the Old Town School. You're such a prolific writer, but I'm under the assumption that no one can really teach you songwriting. What did you learn at the Old Town School?
The Old Town School, I learned to play the guitar, and then I was off and running, and they didn't ask you to read music or anything. They teach you. You'd go home knowing a song that night. You know, some of them you liked, some of them you didn't care about, just the old folk songs. But you could play. And I soon learned, after I learned 2 or 3 songs, or these old folk songs, that I could apply those chords to a whole lot of other songs. And then I learned it was easier for me to write than it was to learn somebody else's song, because it wasn't going to sound like their record anyway. So I just started writing my own stuff, and I never told anybody about it. I just made them up for my own pleasure.
Again, that's a young-looking co-anchor, Paris Schutz, talking with legendary singer and Maywood native John Prine. Back in 2010, Prine died yesterday of COVID-19. You can watch the full interview on our website. And Paris joins us once again. Paris, what do you remember about that interview?
Well, I was a pretty young buckaroo, one of the first interviews I ever did, and I think it shows. But it was the most flustered I'd ever been in an interview, Brandis, because he explained how he wrote this song, Bruised Orange, a really profound song. And I was so in awe of that explanation that I forgot I was a journalist, and I had to ask another question. I was just so wrapped up in it. I'm a musician. I'm a big fan of his. And I you know, he was the most empathetic songwriter I think I've ever known. He wrote from the point of view of a lonely housewife and a Vietnam War vet. So there's just so much to say about John Prine, and our hearts obviously go out to his family.
And you're a musician as well. I'm sure it was an honor to do that at the time, hence your performance, which was great, by the way. And that's our show for this Wednesday night.
You can join us tomorrow night live at 7. And for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Paris Schutz.
And I'm Brandis Friedman. Before we go, we're going to leave you with John Prine performing his song Sam Stone that was here at WTTW in 1972 on the program Open Air. Now for all of us at